Welcome to the Scottish Rite Journal podcast, an audio presentation of the Scottish Rite Journal, brought to you by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. This week's article is Hiram of Tyre, the Unsung King, a major character in Masonic lore, by Brother Barry Deutsch, 32nd degree, KCCH, and comes from the March-April 2024 issue of the Scottish Rite Journal. In his Morals and Dogma lecture on the 19th degree, Grand Pontiff Albert Pike speaks of Masonry as the quiet and peaceful order of which the son of a poor Phoenician widow was one of the Grand Masters along with the kings of Israel and Tyre. Compared to the other major figures of the original Masonic Lodge, King Solomon in the east and Master Workman Hiram Abiff, the widow's son in the south, less is said of King Hiram of Tyre in the west. We know from Masonic ritual and the Bible that King Hiram presented cedar trees from the forests of Lebanon for the construction of the temple at Jerusalem. 1 Kings chapter 5 verse 10. Likewise, his personage is not totally absent from the advanced Scottish Rite degrees. Yet he is also not a major player in any of the exemplifications of the degrees. For example, the 5th degree, Perfect Master, contains an element representing a conversation between Solomon and Hiram at the funeral of Master Hiram Abiff. This conversation appears also in the 6th degree, Intimate Secretary, in which Hiram scolds Solomon over the mere villages he was given in return for his assistance. At this point, Hiram notices an eavesdropper and draws his sword. The ability of Solomon to reduce Hiram's anger is an important teaching of this degree, as Dr. Rex R. Hutchins notes in A Bridge to Light. After this appearance, as the Scottish Rite degrees proceed beyond the Hiramic legend, references to the King of Tyre disappear. Who exactly was Hiram, King of Tyre? As Masons, we know him as part of the Triune, the man who sits in the west, and as a pass-through to most worshipful King Solomon in the east. We do not usually address King Solomon. We address Hiram, who then relays the messages to King Solomon. In some jurisdictions, he acts the part of a seaman and refuses exit to the ruffians because they do not have King Solomon's password. He is, we are told, a good friend of King David and later of King Solomon. 1 King chapter 5 verse 1. We do not know, however, precisely what friendship between kings meant in those days. In order to further investigate this question, we must survey geography and economics. First, let us consider geography. Tyre was a city-state, part of the Phoenician Empire, in what is now Lebanon. The main part of Tyre would have been an island in the Mediterranean except for a narrow neck of land attaching it to the mainland. It was much like Key West and its attachment to Florida. The distance between Tyre and Jerusalem is overland and is approximately 300 miles. Biblical sources tell us that the journey would take many days, as suggested in Genesis chapter 30, verse 36. As for economics, the nation that David ruled lay just south of the city-states of what would become the nation of Lebanon and northeast of the markets of Egypt. Hiram wanted access through Israel to Egypt and to what is now Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Syria, then Mesopotamia, for purposes of trade. Being friends with David was thus much more beneficial to both regions than pursuing war. Under Hiram's rule, Tyre grew into a trading empire as well as the most important of the Phoenician cities. Tyre is also known for having access to Mount Libanus, from which the nation eventually was named. We learn that the cedars of Lebanon were mighty trees and were often used in shipbuilding because of their strength. The prophet Isaiah thus could speak of the glory of Lebanon. Isaiah chapter 35 verse 2. We can ask ourselves why King Hiram could be reconciled so easily to the unimpressive condition of the villages he was given in return for his aid. In the 22nd degree, Knight of the Royal Axe or Prince of Libanus, Masonic scholar Arturo de Hoyos informs us, the Tyrians or Phoenicians were ever ready to aid the Israelites in their holy enterprises. The ties between them were the mysteries into which the principal person of each nation was initiated. Moses received them in Egypt before he could marry the daughter of Heliopolis. Arturo de Hoyos, Scottish Rite Ritual, Monitor and Guide, page 547. It should be remembered that King Hiram may not have been being merely philanthropic when he provided cedars to build David's palace and, later, to Solomon's temple. Similarly, he may not have been concerned about the small towns he was given in payment, and we do not know how interested he was in esoteric mysteries. What we do know is that King Hiram's friendship with Israel resulted in his gaining access to trade routes that benefited both Tyre and Israel. What, then, should we make of the writings of the prophet Ezekiel? In the book of Ezekiel, we read, "The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, Thus saith the Lord God, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God, I sit in the seat of God, in the midst of the seas. Yet thou art a man, and not God, though thou set thine heart as the heart of God. Because thou hast set thine heart as the heart of God, behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness." Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 1 through 2 and 6 through 7. Despite this prophecy against Tyre, the kingdom would last longer than the undivided kingdom of Israel. In fact, shortly after Solomon's death, there was some confusion about succession. With 700 wives and 300 concubines, King Solomon left behind a great many sons, 60 to be exact. Solomon's son Rehoboam inherited the throne, but a revolution against him, led by Jeroboam, ended up dividing Israel in two. King Hiram is said to have rejoiced when Judah, the remaining kingdom, became weaker. Tyre and Sidon and the rest of Phoenicia's eastern Mediterranean empire survived until 573 BCE, when the siege of Tyre ended by capitulation to Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, bringing Ezekiel's prophecy to fruition. Nebuchadnezzar's siege of Tyre began not long after Ezekiel's words against the city. According to the first-century Jewish historian Josephus, Nebuchadnezzar laid siege to Tyre for an incredible 13 years. Yet Nebuchadnezzar did not take the island city by force. It seems likely that the city negotiated a surrender after these 13 years of siege. Either King Ithobal of Tyre died during the siege, or he was surrendered to the Babylonians to be replaced by his son Baal, who would become a Babylonian puppet ruler. The latter idea is supported by an ancient list of foreign kings residing in Babylon who, like Judean king Jehoiakim, were prisoners dependent upon the Babylonian monarch for their lives. At the top of this list was the new king of Tyre. Ironically, the king who finally surrendered Tyre to Nebuchadnezzar was the great-grandson of Hiram and was also named Hiram. Flavius Josephus, Book 1. Much can be gleaned by studying this life and legacy of King Hiram of Tyre, throwing light on the biblical history that is so essential to appreciating the lore of the craft and the Scottish Rite degrees of Freemasonry. Like and share this article, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you wish to comment, please leave one, and as a reminder, hit the notifications bell. Any accompanying photographs or citations for this article can be found in the corresponding print edition. The Scottish Rite Journal is published by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. Mark Dreisenstock, 33rd degree, Managing Editor. I'm your host, Matt Bowers.